Dr. Leahcim Semaj, renowned psychologist, public intellectual on the public eye on the bridge. Yes, frequent guest, man who sets us straight on and offers clarity on a number of matters to do with with life in Jamaica. Looking forward to hit the word with him. Yeah, Leahcim, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am.
Hi, man. Thanks and good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the public eye.
Pleasure's always mine.
Couldn't think of a better person to ask for comment. On the matter, the Inter-American Development Bank, which is a reputable source, has published an extensive study on trust, and the essence of it, worrying, is that the Caribbean and Latin America has the lowest level of trust anywhere in the world, and they describe trust as the most pressing and yet least discussed problem confronting our region. What are you surprised, Dr. Semaj? What you say?
I absolutely am not surprised, my brother. We've been saying this for quite some time.
What is the root of our mistrust in each other? And as the report does, it segments it: interpersonal distrust and individual distrust in institutions, and particularly the state.
Well, look, trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair.
Say that again for me. Trust
takes years to build. It does not happen overnight.
Yeah.
But it takes seconds to break,
yeah,
and forever to repair.
Oy.
So that if we keep breaking it and breaking it and breaking it, we can even summarize a formula. Trust is equal to consistency over time. Each time you think you have seen the worst, it gets worse. You know, you're a churchman, Ronnie. And sometimes, you know, you use a text as the foundation for the lesson.
Yeah.
I'm using as my text today a very simple quote from Maria Como. Remember Maria Como?
Yes, he was mayor of governor of New York.
Of New York. A classic statement from him. It says that as politicians, you tend to campaign in poetry, but you have to govern in prose.
Oh, Lord.
No, Ronnie, you're one of my favorite politicians because I know you from before you went into politics, and I know your integrity, independent of how we identify politicians in Jamaica as such. But the poetry in Jamaica has been beautiful. But when you compare the poetry to the reality of the prose, it's like night and day.
Yes.
And it keeps happening again and again and again and again. No, the wonderful thing about it, I'm using the word wonderful loosely. You can win elections without trust. All you need is numeric majority in a constituency, all right? And both major political parties know how to win elections. But trust is one person at a time. Now, because you have won the election, don't mean you have won the trust. And this has been consistently, you mentioned the issue of the coronavirus issue.
Yeah.
From day one, I offered my assistance because we have a behavioral problem. But the political director wanted no input from anyone else. But all study after study shows that the political directorates are the least trusted entities to tell the people anything.
Yeah.
Now, the people now, the whole issue, the vaccination is something you decide person by person by person, not by constituency. So that because you won the election, you could confuse yourself to think that, well, because they trust us, why they vote for us. You won the election because you know how to win elections. You know all you need to do. All right, we know we have so many votes in this constituency. We know these going to vote 120% for us. We know that. So all we need, you can win the election with 27% of the electorate voting. one of the dilemmas we face, why we will never have any kind of referendum allows us to move away from the monarchy. Because why? We need a 60% vote. No party has ever had 60% of the vote. And the only way you could do that is if both parties came together and presented one platform to the people. That's not going to happen. Jamaican people trust politicians the least of all the various institutions. And what are the things that make up trust? Loyal, reliability, fairness, competence, authenticity, transparency, integrity, truthfulness.
The IDB says that they are defining trust as the belief that another person, the person in whom you trust is to be reposed, will not act opportunistically. That's not a full definition. In fact, it's a rather basal one. What do you think?
No, but it summarizes all the components, because it opportunistically clearly means that you're not accountable, you're not fair, you're not with integrity, you're not being transparent. And we have example after example. Trust is one person at a time. Remember what I started? Yes. Years to build, seconds to break, forever to repair. Yeah. How have we gone about repairing the trust? After every scandal, what have we done to repair the trust?
Very little. Break it down for me now, given that opening, because it's not only a question of the political system not engendering trust, but of perhaps of greater significance is the lack of trust between individuals, Leahcim. I'm thinking particularly of the trust that has to repose between intimate partners, particularly those who become parents.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Ronnie, you couldn't have chosen a more dangerous topic, because at every level of our society, our intimate partners, I have a premise, Ronnie, that says that at least 70% of our children, the phrase that announces their presence is a woman saying to a man, I miss the period, And the man saying, where tell me that for?
God.
And the problem starts there. Because prior to then, there was no a priori discussion of him and her becoming parents and building a family. Circumstances have just altered cases immediately.
Yes.
And you're working from that, because if there was trust to begin with, you put your cards face up, you lay your cards on the table. What are you in this for? Why am I with you? Why do I want to be with you? And again, trust precedes honesty. The data is showing that even in Jamaica, at various levels, whether it's a contested situation or just a random, the number of children in Jamaica where the paternity is questionable. I must use the word questionable to be decent, is one of the highest in the world. So that's one of the ultimate acts of distrust, whereby you are saying that Ronald Thwaites is the father of my child, knowing full well that you're really raffled and then you're just calling Ronald Thwaites' name.
But Leahcim, we need a short break for the time signal. But this is the key to the whole thing, because if you don't have trust between persons at the most sensitive levels of their lives, and if you don't therefore have that cascading and blossoming into trust in a family relationship, in a business relationship, in a statal relationship, citizen relationship, how do you possibly build a coherent society? And then the question is, why? What are the antecedents of our mistrust? And what are the therapies that could make a difference? Dr. Leahcim Kai with Dr. Leahcim Semaj, psychologist and public intellectual. So Leahcim, we're building up a society on sand then, on weak foundations?
Yes, on sand. We look, there's a thin veneer of civility that we like to talk about. And again, look at the opening remarks of your program in terms of the U.S. observations and definition of Jamaican society, both in terms of crime and violence, and also in terms of the COVID-related activities.
Yeah.
And look, Jamaica is a wholly more than that, but those elements. Look, there's a saying that conceived in sin and shaped in iniquity. If you go back to slavery, which all of what it did to us, and we learned coping mechanisms from that. Then colonization. Now, the last 60 years we've been trying to shape a society, but I don't think that we have seriously tackled even just what we're talking about today, trust.
Yes.
Look, if any political party that commits themselves to trust will win all the next elections, because remember, trust is won person by person, one at a time. But now, you must agree with me that to win an election, you don't need trust. All you need is to win enough constituencies. And both parties know exactly how to manipulate the system to get that done. So there's very little incentive at the political level to engender trust.
Except that in defense of us politicians, Leahcim, you whatever the methodology, which is correct as you speak, most people go in there with the hope of really doing something, achieving something on behalf of the community.
And then reality kicks in.
Just allow me a thought on a memory on that. When I went into politics in 1996, I went to see the late Ralph Eugene Brown, who had represented the Central Kingston constituency for many years. And I asked him why he didn't run again, why he gave up when he did. And he was very clear. He said, because I did not think that I could do anything for the residents. I felt that I had let them down. And one of the reasons why I retired in 2020 was because I had come to the conclusion that while it was a worthwhile effort, you simply could not achieve within the existing system, mistrust included. Yes, you could not achieve within the system that which was a minimum justification for your being there. I'm very sad about that, Leahcim.
But Ronnie, I said, I know you, Ronnie, long before you entered politics. And I've interacted with you at various levels. So I know how it was pain your heart. But guess what? When you're part of a system that has those antecedents and those components, look, you remember the length of time that Mr. Siaga was in power. It stymied the Jamaican Labour Party's possibility of success. And that was the PNP's secret weapon. The longer Siaga stayed there, the longer the JLP would have been in the wilderness. Because of the lack of trust. So that no matter how you can manipulate the system, and that is the reality. So that, again, we talked about it at a domestic level in terms of man and woman, the absence of trust that exists. At the workplace, the lack of trust between management and workers.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Jamaica that HR represent management, whereas union represent workers.
Oh.
But I've told managing directors and CEOs, but hold on. If the HR does their job properly, there's almost no room or need for a union. Because HR is not just to represent one side of the coin. HR is to make sure the human resources are appropriately selected and appropriately rewarded.
Yeah.
I've seen a situation when I was on radio. I did a program running where I had as my guest the person from Norman Manley Law School who teaches contract law.
Oh.
Why I did that? Because we are now at a situation in Jamaica where contracts in my experience, are written totally one-sided. If you, in a contractual relationship with somebody, you miss one comma, you could be in trouble.
Yeah.
Lawyers don't attempt to write contracts to make sure, all right, this thing is balanced and everybody is fair. My company now, the simplest thing we do, we now have to have our own internal legal officer. There's a particular government entity we just did something for. We just started a project. And the contract went back and forth between the lawyers 4 times.
Uh-oh.
Because that's where we come to.
Yeah.
Nobody starts by writing a contract with trust. So when we got the first draft of the contract, our legal officer had to go through and just take out this clause and take out that and take out that and take out that. And they will find, what could we both agree to? That's where Jamaica is now reached.
So you glance and say that the antecedents of oppression are the origins, the parents of mistrust. We've gone through an era where we identified, we thought correctly, the class struggle in Jamaica. No one could deny the clarity of the analysis, but doing it that way, Leahcim Semaj, has deepened the fissure, the gap, the gully between of trust. It's very difficult to trust a person who has been identified as your oppressor or as somebody who is your predator.
Absolutely. But you need to go beyond that.
Yes.
Having identified and articulated, that's really not enough.
Yeah.
It was said that Jamaica went through a rough period between the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
And equivalent to South Africa went through a very rough period during apartheid, but they had a truth and reconciliation period.
Right.
Whereby admissions were made. Who has admitted to the wrongs in recent historical memory? Who has admitted to what was done, the nexus between criminality, violence, and politics? Who has admitted to it?
Yeah. Well, all
the data, all the evidence is still there. The memories, people are still alive who remember what happened, so that we have papered it over, so the trust was never repaired. The breach was never repaired. And every day there are instances. I mean, all right, let me just be brave and just say, one of the things that troubled me a lot, of recent memory, do you recall a situation whereby within our constitutions, the way that senators are supposed to be chosen?
Yes.
And there was a situation where senators were asked to sign
undated resignations.
Resignation.
Yeah. And give them to the person who appointed them.
No, Ronnie, the person who made that request, that was wrong. But the senators who agreed to do it,
yeah.
If I was to be appointed as senator, and you came to me, Ronnie, and said, listen, Dr. Semaj, before I appoint you, I want you to sign a resignation letter, but don't date it, right? I will tell you what to do with the piece of paper.
Indeed, and you should.
So that's the kind of stuff we talk about recent memory.
Yeah.
Because there's a particular ruling party in power now, you could say we're picking on them, but no, that one just came to mind as a basic public event. Well,
so the question arises then, with this sort of fatal flaw in our personal and in our social order, how do we begin to rebuild trust, Dr. Semaj? Because if we don't, our corner dark,
Well, we have to, the elements that make up trust, again, there are 4 elements of trust. Able, are you able to do what you say you're going to do? Believable. Do people believe you that you can get the job done? Huh?
Yes.
Are you dependable? Can you do it, and will you do it consistently? Now, you do this by demonstrating it. You do this by demonstrating it. So each time you do something, you say you're going to do something, and you end up not doing it. And worse yet, you don't give an example. But look, if it's just about winning power, we know how to do that. And guess what? The people who are most closely tied to the political process, they do not hold leaders accountable. As I say, they drink the Kool-Aid. So whatever my leader do, yeah man, I'm right, man. Must be a good reason why I'm doing it. Must be a good reason why I'm doing it. And even if you, as a part of a process, Ronnie, you have no basis on which to query. Your only option is to work with the program or resign or step aside.
Well,
so that we really need, I've known a lot of people who have had political ambitions, and the closer they got to the process, or if they got in, they stepped out immediately because they realized, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. So we really have to start with, and it's almost impossible to change it from outside. We call that revolution. Can we get the persons who are in the system to accept that Jamaica deserves better than this?
Well, every moment is an opportune moment, but this one is peculiarly so. We are in a situation now where, despite best efforts, I'm sure, by many people who exercise power or who hold political responsibility, who have economic wherewithal, our chances of growth, let alone equitable growth, are severely compromised by external circumstances as well as internal mistrust and divisions. If we don't do it now, it will elude us for much longer than it would if we were to engage on the reference. Can there be pressure towards some kind of juncture? You made the point about the monarchy. On Sunday coming, I will be attending a church service to celebrate Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth's 70th anniversary. 70th. Yes, and I'm anxious to be courteous to the lady, but the removal of the monarchy for Jamaica, to me, is an extremely important issue. But I like you, do not see any prospect of the two parties to get together. And if they were even to do so and secure the 60% of the people support, then that would only lead me to ask, why don't we keep going together on some of the vital issues, and particularly the issue of restoring trust in public institutions and private relations? Leahcim?
I am with you 100%, Ronnie. If we were to be able to do that just for the case of moving the monarchy, we'd have to just continue the process.
Yeah.
Because it will show that we are ready to work together for the collective good of the country.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
I am by nature an optimistic person, but in this case, I'm really not, Ronnie. I'm a realistic person in this case, because there are significant minority members of the Jamaican society who benefit from the current situation. And they are not about to change it. I remember some years ago, I was at a NGO, what do you call these people? It's non-political discussion about the issues of campaign contribution.
Yeah.
And I said, but folks, you can't be blaming the political parties about not wanting to disclose campaign contribution. You very folks in this room are the ones that are making the campaign contributions. You represent the big companies.
Yeah.
If you said, I will publicly disclose
what I have done,
that each election I will give, say, $50 million to one and 45 to the other.
Yeah.
I edge my bet. So whichever one wins, they owe me a favor. If you decide that I am going to make this public, so that the parties don't have to say a thing, the individuals who control the financial levers of the Jamaican society, they presently benefit from the current situation. They aren't about to want to change it.
Well, I agree. Sadly, but there's another imperative. Leahcim, I came across some close relatives, young people, highly qualified people, conscious, love Jamaica. And the discussion was, should they stay here? They have options. And the two of them were quite clear. If you guys, meaning people of my background, people in the political arena, if you guys can't get it together so that we can really look forward to a process where we see liberty, where we see hope for the future, why should we stay?
Good question. And if you notice that the data shows that approximately 50% of the persons who graduate from our tertiary institutions, their primary objective is to migrate. So that those who the country invests the most in terms of the educational process are the ones most likely and desirous of a better life. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Migrating.
Yes.
Because we're not it's as if we don't know what clock a strike.
What can we do in the process of socialization? What can we do in the schools through the very powerful media opportunities that we have to engender trust, Dr. Semaj?
But you see, do we teach something that we don't believe in? That's one of the problems.
Yeah.
How about this example here? We can show how that relationship between school and media can work. Back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, Jamaicans have this saying that, boy, the old-time festival songs were the best one.
Yeah.
I don't think so. They're just as silly as the ones now. But guess what? Every one of us know all the old-time festival songs. Why? Because one radio station had a national commitment to national development.
Yeah.
And they had to play all the songs every day.
Yeah.
I don't think any radio station, we have over 30 radio stations now in Jamaica with none committed to national development. There's no individual station that, look, your mandate is national development. So nobody is committed to national development. People are committed to their own personal development and what's in it for me? WIIFM, that's the #1 station. What's in it for me? So that, how was a school? Look, the Patterson report on the educational system was not new. The majority of children come out of the end of high school without being able to matriculate. The number of children who can't even pass 2 subjects. 60% of our children cannot pass 5 subjects, including maths and English. So the educational system, we know all the data says that it is not working. But are we about to fix it? The pushback we get from the educators themselves when we want to get accountability, the pushback we get from the government in terms of funding, why don't we put more effort into pre-primary and primary, get the foundations right, and we take it from there.
And the key
you mentioned the figures at the beginning of the program about the number of students who have not really returned to educational system. We won't pay the price for that for years to come.
My God, Leahcim, thank you for saying that, because I'm just begging people, anybody listening to The Bridge, anybody listening to Public Eye, can you just accept that? It's not 27,000. They may be the ones who you don't have any contact with at all, but who name you know, who may come in and register 1 day or 2 days. Every day in school, we are losing over 100,000 children. You can't proceed. You can't progress on that, sir.
You know, Ronnie, one of the things that we tried to do, and we did so very poorly during the pandemic, was to continue online education. One thing people don't realize, the more critical element of the educational process is socialization.
Yes, sure.
That was paused for 2 years.
Yes.
And that was replaced by cable television and the streets. Do you realize the upsurge of gangs? The upsurge of gangs. Sure. How many more young people now have committed their allegiance to gangs? Yeah. Because when I was in primary school, the socializing agent of being a boy scout. Yes. When I was in secondary school, the socializing agent of being a cadet. All of those pro-social activities
Yes. Pause.
is what helped to shape us.
Listen.
I know one thing that you were concerned about was a two-shift system.
Yes.
Because with a two-shift system, the socialization component got significantly reduced.
Of course.
So, Ronnie, we know the questions, we know the problems, but is there a will? There are sufficient numbers of persons who benefit from the present situation.
Well,
the fact that you're talking about it,
yes,
this is a wonderful thing. You know, there's a concern. Why are we just talking to the choir? Listen, it's an important thing to talk to the choir because guess what? We strengthen other people on an individual level to do something.
Yes.
So someone listening to our program today, they may be in a position to say, but you know, I have been one of those who have been consistently contributing to both political parties, but without asking the questions about where is the society going. Maybe the next cycle around, I will ask some questions.
And they should. And as you know, our focus on this station particularly is on people in the diaspora, Jamaicans in the diaspora, who are sending whole heap of money, goods, expectations, hopes, who are investing trust in families, institutions, etc. And in a sense, well, what I want to do is strengthen them to make, to both to mentor and to make demands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're in a position, and many more of them are doing so. But do you realize that, Ronnie, as a person who lives back and forth, and a Jamaican living outside of Jamaica sometimes is more Jamaican than one inside.
Of course.
Because it is what keeps him safe.
Yes,
it is what keeps him sound.
Yes.
And the nation, you want the Jamaicans overseas now to invest financially and otherwise. But you're going to have to be accountable to them.
Well,
so just by you asking this question,
yes,
where the trust deficit,
yes,
I'll say the last thing, as I said before, elections are won by winning a numeric majority in a constituency, but trust is won one person at a time. Any party who commits themselves to winning trust will win all the next elections for the next 100 years.
And that is, and therefore, why can't that be an objective, a target for both political parties? And having regard to the tremendous benefit, the wonderful situation that we could have if you were able to really incarnate, enflesh that trust and show that is the name of his company. I love that. And you hear the trenchancy and the zeal and the passion of his remarks. Trust. We can't continue to be rated lowest in the world for our trust in ourselves, in our institutions, and in relation to the state. When that happens, coercion, selfishness, individualism takes over. Yes, what's it in for myself? What's in it for myself? Remember he said? No, we can't do it that way. This is a critical area. The Inter-American Development Bank said this is the least discussed important element of our development, where we're going to stop that on this program, on this station, I hope. We're going to talk about trust. We're going to try and build trust. What did Leahcim say again? It takes years to build up, seconds to crash, and an eternity to rebuild.